So hello everyone, welcome to this June session of the Geometry Cafe. I hope you have any kind of coffee, a hot chocolate or something. I have juice because, as I was saying, it's super hot here, so just something fresh. And I didn't tell you what we're going to do today, and you're all here, so it's nice. We're going to do a little rose window, which is quite simple. It's made of just tangent circles. Well, it's always tangent circle story, as you may know by now, for Gothic motifs. But this one is especially just tangent circles. It's from Strasbourg, and I'm going to show it to you. And yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not too complicated, so should be fun. So the plan today is this. So this is the side of Strasbourg Cathedral. If I find the front, the facade is this one. I've done some courses on the big rose and this one, rose, beautiful, and on some of the side arches and motifs that are on the sides. And it's a beautiful cathedral, and Strasbourg is a lovely city. It's in the north east of France, very close to Germany. And yes, so gorgeous cathedral. It doesn't show so much on this picture, but it's a very pink stone. Here it has a very sort of yellow morning light, but the as you will see in other picture, the stone is very pink. It's called pink sandstone, and I've used it as a pigment in some works around this cathedral. But that's another story. So what we're going to look at is this side of the cathedral. So you see the facade is there, and this is the north side, I believe, and you have those two little but probably actually quite big windows, and they are the same shape, but they're just orientated differently. I'm going to show them closer in a second. So it's just exactly the same layout, but a different choice of orientation, and we can see them here again and from inside. And I think I haven't double checked, but in my memory they're more recent than the facade, but it's kind of a fun simple play with tangent circles and an eightfold, so I thought that was going to be fun for today's Geometry Cafe. And what was lucky for this one, even though because they are tangent circles, it's a bit easier to understand what's going on because the curves are kind of all circles, and it doesn't usually, there's not that many traps when it's that obvious circles. However, the lucky thing in studying this one and in finding out a construction was that this facade, as you can see, there's some scaffoldings here, and the whole side there was renovated not too long ago by an architect company thing, and they have done some I'm not sure what the English word would be, but in French we say relevé, so they have like a study, like a very detailed study of the actual stonework, and it happens that the drawings were just available on their website, so I got this, which was very handy in terms of studying the geometry of the rose. So I've used this. I'll try to add some of the images in a gallery on the Buy Me a Coffee page thing, so you can download them if you want. But that's very handy. I think I'm going to start and write to all the architect company that take care of restoration and Gothic works just to know if they would be happy to send me these, because I believe with today's technology the studies can be quite accurate. In the past, they were using sort of I think constellation of pictures to draw over them, so it was accurate and not so much in a same way. Right, so that's for where it's coming from. This is one of my own pictures when I was in Strasbourg. There's a beautiful clock under it, and yeah, the stained glass. The stained glass is I never really know what's going on with the stained glass because I'm not very good with Christian imagery and stories, but there are people and some writing, and I think it's nice also how they've used this kind of weird shape. Usually you wouldn't leave a shape like this kind of empty in Gothic architecture, but I like the little foliage thing they've done, and they've used a space, the longer space for writing, so it's always nice to still have a bit of a look into what's going on in the stained glass. And that's the other one, very blue. Right, so with all of that, we can start the actual geometric fun. Unless there are any questions or anything before we start. The vents on my computer are very loud, but I think that's just that's how it's going to be with the temperature. Right, so I'm going to draw on A3 format, so that's my European size, which is about this big. It's 42 by almost 30 centimeters, so it's nice to have some space, although it's not too complicated. So I would try and have a starting my initial radius would be about 13 centimeters, so something 13 centimeters radius, so double that for the whole width will be nice. I'm gonna switch camera. There we go. I need to adjust them. Oh, I need something to adjust the sharpness of the. I think it's, yeah, it looks okay. Okay. Sorry, just setting up the webcam. Right, so vertical line or horizontal, we're going to divide this in 4 and 8, so whichever, but I'm going to start with a vertical line, and you can either center this in the middle of your page, landscape, or portrait. Right, it's going to be kind of a square, but so I'm using landscape, and I'm just, because I tend to do this now, I'm going to center it on the side, so like if it was in a square. So therefore, because my short length is 29.7, I'm just going to use 14.8.5 or something close to that to mark my vertical. But you could just do half of your page. That would work just as well. And then, oh, sorry, I'm going to use my markers just so that you can see a little bit better what I'm drawing. So vertical line, then the middle of that vertical line to draw first circle. Okay. So about there. As I said, we can start quite wide for this drawing, so as much space as you can, because we are like the construction circle is going to be a little bit bigger than the actual circle for the rose, but it's going to work out. This is the study with my scribbling on top of it, but you can see that we have also the sort of outer kind of margins, or sort of the rim that's going to be around the rose. So the circle we're going to start with is going to fall somewhere into that. So we want to start as big as we can. So I'm going to use 13 centimeters here, like that. I don't think I've ever heard my computer be so loud during filming, but just hope it doesn't
I can't hear it, so.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I think it's the Zoom sort of background noise thing is pretty good. So big circle, and we're going to divide this in 8. But to find the perpendicular at this scale, it's I usually use the 3/4 of the diameter technique, but your compass might not open big enough for this circle. Mine doesn't. You can always cheat or get an extension, but I'm just going to use a different method than the 3/4 diameter. So we've just drawn the circle, and I'm going to use the 6-fold division, even though it's not going to be part of the rest of the design, but I'm going to use it just to find the perpendicular line. So I have the radius of the circle on my compass, and I place the compass point on one of the intersections, and I just very lightly mark the circumference, the circle, and we're going to use that to find a perpendicular line, and that's all, I think. So just very light marks, just like that. And so from there, so we don't draw any axes or anything, we just mark the circumference, and from there I'm going to shorten my the opening of my compass until I have the arc here, and I can kind of gauge a little bit more than half of the arc, so of this section, this 1/6, so just a little bit more than half of it, so that my intersection here is on my page, and it's not the case. You can see I didn't gauge it too well, so I'm just going to make it shorter. If it falls outside of your page, just make the measure a little bit shorter, and do it again from both sides until you get your intersection on the page, and the same on the other side, so we can have our marks for the perpendicular line. There we go. So like this, we have a circle divided in 4. And we're going to further divide this all the way to 16, I believe, yes, so that we can fit all of our tangent circles. So you could use the whole radius of the circle to find the corners of your square and the diagonals. But again, I have longer rulers, but I just have my 30 centimeters, and if I do the whole square, my ruler is not going to reach from corner to corner. So I'm going to use a smaller measure. I don't actually need the square anyways. So I'm just dividing one angle, 1/4, in two. And so it's the same principle. I take a little bit more than half of that arc on my compass, so that I have an intersection that's closer to my circle. And we're just bisecting angles, basically. And then we'll be able to use that for the symmetry axis. And we're going to keep doing this, not forever, just once again. Hang on. Yes, okay, so again we're bisecting the angles, so I'm taking an even slightly smaller measure here, and you can go around your circle from each of your 8 points on the circle, the 8 axes, and making new little crosses so that we can add in another division. Just going to leave you a minute to finish this, but let me know in case you need any help with that. I hope the division is working okay. I can see some of you, but maybe just give me a little thumbs up reaction whenever you're done, so that I can carry on. One little thumbs up. Yay. Can I explain the 8 division again? So when did you get stuck? Do you have the fourfold? Okay, so if you have the fourfold, it's just a matter of dividing angles. So you have the horizontal and the vertical, and it's an approximate measure, but it needs to be, even if you don't have your divisions already, it needs to be a little bit more than half of the whole fourth of the whole arc here. And then you use that to make a little arc outside of your circle. And the same thing from the horizontal here, and it's going to give you this little cross, and you do it like this all around from your 4 cardinal points, intersections. That will give you the 8 fold division. And then it's going to be the same thing again, but from a smaller angle. It's really the same thing, but from each of these. Okay. And then we're going to use that division to draw an 8-pointed star. So there are two types of 8-pointed stars. One is made of two overlapping squares. It's the kind of the easiest, but it's not the one we want to do here. We want to do the other one, which could be drawn of like in one continuous line. And just to make things a little bit easier, it's not very complicated, but I'm going to number the division so that we know what we are talking about and we all draw in the same orientation. And we have 16 division, and I'm going to use the same principle as a clock. So I'm going to start at the top here with 16. Like if it was a clock, we would have 12 at the top. So 16 here on the, get another color, maybe this, on the north point, and then clockwise 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So, like I said, we have two similar windows that have just different orientation. We're going to just do, one of them, and but both of them would work. But for the one we are doing, we are going to link the odd numbers into a star. So it's an 8-pointed star. So we're going to use 8 points on the circle to link them up. And we are, it depends how you look at it, but if you are thinking of the 8 points on the circle, it's like a skip 2 star, but I'm going to tell you the numbers so it's easier. So we're going to start from number 1 here, and we're going to link that to number 7. So that's going to be a vertical line. So 1, 7, and then it depends how you want to look at it, the way you draw it, because it's a star which can be one continuous line. So we could carry on 1, 7, 13, 3, 9, 15, 5, 11, back to 1. But it's like it's the idea, but sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. I also like to just turn my ruler around like this. So you could, we started from 1 to 7, and so you skip 2 slices here, and then you're going to be linking 3, and then 2 slices down there as well. So clockwise, from 1 we go to 3, and then from 7 we go to 9. So that's, we're linking 3 to 9. Sorry, it was a little bit of an overcomplicated explanation, but 3 to 9. And I'm just rotating my ruler of 2 slices each side every time. So after that it's going to be 5, 11. I could write them, but 1, 7, 3, 9, 5, 11. I'm not sure you can actually see what I'm writing up there, but and so we keep on turning, and then it's 7 to 13. 9 to 15. I think we've used it in a previous pattern on the Geometry Cafe already. And then 11 to 1. Mm, 13 to 3. And 15 to 5. Actually, it's always yeah, never mind. But yeah. So 11 1, 13 3, and 15 5. Should look like this. So just to be sure you didn't misalign anything, you should have and like points that are symmetrical, and there should be one empty point in between each of the branches of the star, and in the middle you should see appearing the other 8-pointed star. So you have like another star here, and this one is made of 2 overlapping squares, and we could color the triangles here to see that a bit better, but it's not really the point today, so yes, but we're going to use that to draw our tangent circles. Any questions on the star? First, I hope you are able to catch up with the star, Dawn. And so the centers we are going to use are these to start with. So if you look at the shape of your star, we have the sort of kite shape like this, and it's at the point of this, or you can look at the octagon in the center, it's in the angles of the octagon, or you can also think of the numbers of the axes, it's on again the odd numbers, so the same axis as the points of the star. So just find your way to see those centers. I'm going to show the first circle. So this star situation is very convenient because it's giving us everything we want to be able to draw the tangent circles, meaning that we have our centers and they are already linked together in a straight line that goes through the symmetry axis. So this line linking the two centers is going to give us our radius, and it's also the tangent point between the two circles, so it makes our life easy. And that's the circle we want to fit. So it's really should be tangent to the two symmetry axes here, and it should be the same radius for all of them, and should be tangent like that. Let me know if I can help with any part of that. I hope it's working well so far. Okay, so let's have a look again at the image to see where we're at and what we're looking for. So that's the stained glass part, but if we have a look at this image, we have done this inner row of 8 tangent circles, and then we have other circles tangent to them that are the same size. So it's exactly the same size circles, and they are tangent to the circles we have already, and this is what is giving us this pointy shape here. It's because we are using the tangent point to make that curve. So what does that mean? That means that those 3 circles, if I look at this here, are the same size and they're tangent to each other. So that makes it easy for me to find the center for the next circle, because I can do, like, if I wanted to draw a triangle between the centers. I'm going to show that. Let me get back to this. Okay, so open my compass from center to center. So the circles I've just drawn, I place the compass point in one center and I open to the next one. Let me zoom in more. And then I'm going to see where that crosses on my vertical axis here. So it's like drawing a mini arch, equilateral arch, to find this intersection that will give me the center for a new tangent circle. And we can do that all around. So it's from center to center, and you see where that crosses on the other symmetry axis in between. Okay, once you have your intersections, it's just going to be to come back to the radius of one of your 8 tangent circles. So get back to one of the radius, into the radius of those circles, and then you should be able to use it from the marks you've made on the axis in between, and that should be the right placement for this new tangent circle. Like that. Okay. And so then we can enclose that to make it to have the circle of the actual rose. This other bigger circle is not irrelevant. It's part of, I think it falls within the wider thickness, so it does make sense to have that. So just go back to the center of the drawing and measure to one of your outer small circles and where it's cut by the symmetry axis, and use that as a radius to draw a circle, a bigger circle that's tangent to those 8 circles and contains the whole drawing, like that. And then we just have the little octofoil or 8 foil 8-leaf thing in the center. This. So we have this, and I'm going to also give you some indication of the thickness. We don't have to draw it everywhere, but I'm going to draw it on one portion of the drawing, so if you want to, you can add it, I think. And just so you see, this is a case of that you're going to see how we place that central little 8-leaf motif, but it's a case where it's like the grid is more important than the tangent in this case. It's usually not the case in Gothic geometry, but sometimes, especially in what is called plate tracery, but so it's a type of tracery which is less continuous lines and more like a whole wall and some open. Sorry, it's a bit hard to explain like this. Maybe at the end, if you want, I can show you some images, because it's a bit hard to explain without images. But what I mean to say is that if you look at the 8 foils, you can see that the thickness of them does not overlap with the 8 tangent circles around it. So they are not tangent. The thickness meets, but it doesn't overlap and merge into each other like it does on the other ones. Okay? And I'm going to show you how do we find these? How does it make sense? Here. So we are going to add a new star within the star. So you see the 8-pointed star that we made like this. We're going to make exactly the same one, but this time linking the centers of our 8 tangent circles. So if you look at this circle of 8 tangent circles, centers are linked together. We have this octagon in the center. So it's just the same as we did on the outer circle, but linking those points. And that means that we can use exactly the same numbering that we did before. So if you look at the axis number 1 here, this center, we link to axis number 7. So here. So if you can look at the point of your star and see 1 is linked to 7, and just follow the axis down to your centers, if that makes sense. And that, and then you turn around one center, one circle clockwise on each side to pivot your ruler. And the idea here is that we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did on the first star to do our 8 tangent circles, and that's going to give us the base for the 8 foils. Yep. So centers on the same axis as the other ones. It's always, so if you look at the octagon in the center, it's the angles of the octagon that are used as centers here. And the radius is from one of the centers to the symmetry axis in between on the line here that links both of them. So, and here you don't have to draw the whole circle. Remember that when you draw small, it's easier to have your point and your pen or lead or whatever on the same level. Here, and I'm just doing this part just from sort of outside of the octagon like that. And there will be a gap between the small circles and the big ones, and that's normal. That's what I was mentioning just before, how these are not tangent and it's the thickness that's going to catch up on that. It's creating kind of a bit of an accent in the center. creates this little flower in the center. Again, let me know if I can help if needed. You might notice also that we have those squares that have appeared here. Not any specific use, but just we have a square here. Okay, so with that we have, you know, the general structure of all of this, and I'm going to give you some indication of the thickness. Also, you could either erase or just when you outline, just outline some part, like in the final design, this little part here is not drawn, so this is what creates this tear shape, this kind of pointy shape. It's just because we don't draw this part on the final motif. So the thickness here has 2 levels, and I'm going to show you how to find both. I'm just thinking as I'm, I usually like to start with the thicker one so that you can kind of choose whatever you do in between of that. And what's the best way to show that? So I'm thinking at the same time. Trying to, yes, that's how I had it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to add in 2 lines, and it's just construction to find one specific intersection. So you could use the gap in between to find your your thickness, but we're going to use something else, and we are going to pretend like we want to do a square around some of those outer circles, so the 8 tangent circles that are sort of the most outside of the circle. And I'm going to line up the tangent of the circle, so that's always a good exercise. So you're lining the ruler. I have the circle on the axis 16 and the circle on the axis number 4 here, and I'm lining my ruler so that I just have the edge of the circle outside of it, and that I can link that in a line like this. And it should be sort of parallel to some of the other lines on your drawing. Yeah. So we're using the tangent to draw this line. It's tangent to those 2 circles. Yes. And then the same thing with the circle number 4 again and number 8 here. So on the horizontal here and on the vertical here, I line up the edge of the circle. So I want to draw a line that's just touching those circles, not crossing them, but touching, but still going through their circumference. And you can extend. You don't have to. You can extend that line. And if you keep doing that, you're going to draw a square. But we're just going to, you just need this half. So we have the sides like of half a square, and we're going to again pretend like I want to add in a square within the square, even though they're not full squares, sorry. So just those axes I've added from here to here. The halfway point of that is on axis number 6 here, just under the center for that circle that is cut by this line. So this and then this here. So I'm linking those two points like that. And I'm doing that so that I can find where that cuts my horizontal line here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So this whole line is drawn from here to here. So not the centers of the circle, but the two tangent lines I've added just before, where they are cut by the symmetry axes number 2 and 6, and I link that. That should be a vertical line, and I'm interested by where that cuts my horizontal line. Yes? Let me know if there are questions on that, but hopefully that makes sense so far. Okay, and that works, but that's actually the mark for the thinner thickness. So just keep it here, and I'm going to show you the other one, and then you can either just do the bigger one or do both. And the other thickness mark is I'm just double checking. Is actually linking the centers of those two circles again, and that's again to find where that cuts my horizontal line. So I want this. And we're actually going to use that last one first, so the one that I've just added from circle center to circle center, so the one which is most to the outside of the circle. And the way to use it is go to one of the small circles in between. So I have two tangent circles here, and the mark for the thickness is in between them. I'm going to zoom in here. So I go on this circle here, and I'm going to open to the intersection I made right there. And that's the mark for the outer thickness, and as you can see, it's pretty much the same as the central little petals. So you could say, why all of this? But it's interesting to see that it's the same thing as this as well, and it's actually on my drawing is a slight overlap here, so I would rather use that as a reference point to start with. And so that's my outer thickness. And like I said, you could do the whole drawing, but I'm just going to do part of it so you can see how it works. And on those outer circles, they're all the same size, so it's the same size thickness. You could also, you don't have to draw over the whole circle, you can kind of stop where you have the tangent area. And so that's the outer thickness. And now if I look again, for instance, at my two circles on top of each other here, the outer, so you don't have to, you know, if you haven't done the whole thing, just try it on one section and then you can complete. The outer thickness of one circle becomes the inner of the other one. So this is where you can get your radius for the inner. So it's where it's on this axis here, tangent to the outer of the next circle. Hopefully, if you can see that. If we look at the study again to understand where we are with this thickness, the thickness we've just added is not the darkest line, is the one after that. It's not the paler one. It's sort of, yeah, the one line in between the darkest and the paler one. That's the line we've been doing just now. So to get this darkest line, we need a slightly smaller measure that we are going to add in just a second. Yeah, and you can see here then on the outer, the biggest circle is treated a little bit differently than the rest. So just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to just add the same thickness to our circle on the drawing, but just to let you know, the original has something a bit different going on this outer circle, but it's just sort of detailed rendering choices. So so this is why I had the two different thing going on there. What color should I use? I don't want to add too many colors, but I do want to differentiate a little bit. Maybe some sort of blue. Okay, let's try that. So I can come back to one of those two circles. And you can use this time the other mark. So this inner one. It's almost half, I think. It's pretty much the same. If you look at this closely, if we look at the thickness here, we have 3 lines and 2 width, and it's almost half of 1 width. And remember that my middle line disappears in the final drawing. I'm going to show you my drawn version, and this is what is going to give you the effect of the central line is wider. You could use like a wide pen to do this instead of just yeah. So it's adding an extra layer of thickness. If this is too fiddly, don't worry too much about it, just as long as you have one general thickness. I'm just showing you how this works, just in case you want to do it. And so that's sort of the outer second level of the thickness. And again, it's here that I can pick up the tangent. So the inner second level is tangent to the outer of the other one. I don't know if you can see here what I'm doing, but you could eyeball it just so that it's a similar thickness and that it's tangent like that. And starting to be a lot of lines, I know, but I'm show you the other my other drawing in a second, so maybe it makes a bit more sense. Just add in a few of them. Okay, so if I show you this version that I did just a little earlier, this is not watercolor paper, and it's a bit of, I should probably redo it on watercolor paper because the tried actual watercolors on top of it, but you can see here how how it works. When you have those 5 lines and you fill the 2 middle ones with one color, this is what gives you the effect of this, kinda. Can't really show both at the same time, but yeah. And so here you could also just use a a white band. The other, so on the version I've showed, I've colored in the mid part. You could also fill in the sort of this part, the thinnest part, or you could just do one thickness with this, like a felt tip, a wider felt tip, and then that will make your life easier. Oh yeah, and I've colored parts that I should not have colored. Here. Anyways, so I'm going to show you how that works with the central part, but any questions on this so far? Did you try in those thickness? I know that if the tangents don't work so well, adding this many sort of layers and thin lines is a bit fiddly and hard, so don't worry too much about the whole levels, but getting absorbed. Okay. Yes, it's always good to have another go. But like I said, you could also sort of use the fat pen technique. That works. Okay. And here we go. And on the inside, so it's a bit tricky because the doesn't exactly match the thickness on this and on this. It will end up kind of overlapping and being next to each other, so it works in the end. But to work it out here, you can't just go from the center and extend to this, because the core lines are not tangent. So I would recommend that you grab a piece of paper and make yourself a little template. So just the edge, any paper edge, and find somewhere where your tangent and thickness worked out okay, and you can mark all your levels. So it's like creating a mini ruler that's just specific to your drawing. And then ideally we would transfer it from here, but it's a bit like an overlap with the rest. So here it coincides, but it doesn't always exactly. So I would probably use another side that still goes through the center here of that small circle, and line up the center of my template on the little circle and transfer the thickness information like that. And then you can use that on the others. You need at least sort of going around the petal like that, And you need also on the line that's in between the circles, the tangent line. I mean, it's not, the line is not tangent, but it's linking the centers of the two tangent circles. And therefore, or you could just draw the whole thing, but yeah, you do want this information because then it's going to give you the inner thickness. So that's a very small circle. It's also why I tried to start as big as possible. This drawing, well, like any rose window, really would benefit from being drawn bigger, just because those designs are just really meant to be massive. Oh, but you do have the templates there, so you could just work it from there. So wherever you do a new level, come back to your area where you've transferred your mini template. Right. Not sure how accurate my template was, but anyways, should be a bit thinner than that, I feel. I'm not sure which side. Okay, well, see how it's always a bit tricky. This didn't end up being quite the same as the other ones, anyways. Hopefully you still get the idea. And it would be like that. Here. I'll give you the images in a little gallery, and you could always, before drawing the thickness, you could always sort of print the one from the architect, the study, and just practice coloring it so you understand how or extend the lines and see, so you can understand a bit better how things go or relate to each other. Hopefully starting to see this. And for the last little detail, so here this white part which has the green line in the middle, and that would stop here, so that would be the actual stop point for this part, like this. And to finish that off here, you would need to add in that thinnest outer thickness. Need to add this in here, so I would just use a compass for that. From the center, and I've eyeballed the thickness because it's just like 1 millimeter anyway, and that would be the finishing line. So, how did it go? I like this pattern. I think it's a fun pattern because the general layout is simple, and it's good because it's simple and you don't have too many radiuses. It's good to practice your stars, drawing, dividing your circle carefully, then drawing the star carefully so that things line up as well as you can, and then that's what is going to give you good tangent circles. And then if your tangent circles work well enough and that you place your compass correctly, then you can play with the different levels in the thickness if your tangents are working well. And you can always, if it's not, when you go over with a pen or color, you can always make it work better. Yeah. Here we go. Would anyone want to share their drawings with the camera? We can have a little look. I'm not seeing everyone. I don't know if anyone is. Gallery. Okay, so that's for today's cafe. Was going well until the middle flower. Ah yes, A4 in the middle flower. That's probably very small circle, unless you have like a mini compass or something. So have another go a bit bigger. That will definitely help. And yeah, well, thank you for being here for today's session. And thanks, Dawn. And I haven't chosen the dates for July and August yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be a Sunday or not in July and August. It might be a different day, just for the sake of, a little bit of variation and just summer plans. But I will send you a message as soon as I know. And I think the next session will be more coloring. So maybe I send maybe one of the patterns we've done before, or I think one of the patterns we've done, either this one or maybe another one, and I can do one version maybe with watercolors, and you guys can draw along with either the same thing or something else if you want, maybe just a more even a bit chill session of just coloring together, if that works for you. And have a good Sunday.
Thank you.
Wherever you are. And see you next month.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. See you.
See you.